Thank you so much for joining us on Fun with Friends. Today, I'm welcoming my friend, Kevin Brown, Chief Marketing Officer of Onbe. Kev, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, Lauren, thanks for having me. Great to see you.
So, I talked a little bit about Apple in our prior segment, and
hmm
they released this awesome ad where they basically had this guy being followed around by humans, but that were acting as if they were like trying to, go through his garbage or follow him into the bathroom. And the idea was apps are tracking you, right? And so
hmm
Apple has obviously put out app tracking functionality so that people can decide who can and cannot follow them. So how do you see that playing out as a marketer
Yeah, I
for
mean,
marketers?
yeah, we're marketers, and look, I think that ultimately there's got to be a balance, right? And the balance that's struck is if I as a consumer am giving you my personal information, well, what are you doing with that? Are you returning value to me, right? Like I think that's, and if you are, great. Like I'm willing to let you do that, and I'm willing to let you to track me, right? Because I'm getting value out of that interaction. And I think that kind of comes back to the core of everything we do as marketers, is everything we do as practitioners of this practice, and as we do as business people. And so I bring that right back to privacy and tracking, right? If I'm going to be able to get more value, if ultimately that ad you're going to serve me is that much more targeted, if that offer is that relevant, which is, I think, as for all of us, probably what, 15 years into this, a tall order, then great. I think we're willing to do that. I think not just as a society, we've shown that. So hats off to Apple for making that move. I think it is important because there's a lot of interactions in life where there isn't that exchange of value. And no, I don't want to be tracked. So I think from the role that Apple will play in that ecosystem, it's super important. And I think that, the onus is on brands, is on companies and capabilities to give value, make it okay, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I always give this answer or this example to my friends when I'm talking to them about media and advertising, is that I was looking up hairstyles on Pinterest recently and was served an ad for freezing my eggs, and I was kind of like, screw you, because it felt so deeply personal. And I feel like
hmm
there is a line to which advertising is too personal, right? And there are places where you shouldn't go there. And so I do think that you know from Apple's privacy changes to Google Chrome's privacy changes, sort of the shift to more safety for consumers, I think is super important. And I think for that reason, this backlash coming, is that there is such a thing as too close.
Yeah, well, and that, to me, though, in that example, that's also about, whoever is the steward of that brand, understanding where their brand should be and shouldn't be, right? There's like, if that is a service that you at some point would want to avail yourself of, great. There's going to be a time and a place and probably a headspace for you as a potential consumer where that might be interesting and relevant for you. There's other places where it just doesn't make sense. It feels wrong. And the ultimate result is, even if you're interested, you're probably not going to engage with that brand. And that, I think,
Yeah.
somewhat brings the conversation full circle to say, the onus is, as we think about as marketers, being the stewards of the brand, as ultimately going back to the how do we sell more things? Well, turning people off by being really out of context is probably not one way to do it. So that's where, at all those touch points, you need to recognize where that brand belongs and where it doesn't.
Totally. And I think it's interesting, Apple too, because they're really putting themselves out there as, we care about privacy, and that is an really incredibly powerful brand move from them too, because they could have swung the other way, and now they're sort of setting the standard for everybody else to follow.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, if you think about Apple and what ultimately, if looking at their software, right? Apple's always been somewhat of within Apple's four walls and somewhat of a closed ecosystem, and they've built an incredible company around that, right? So going back to, like, it's not just a piece of creative because it was going to resonate because privacy was the trend. That was core to the DNA of the business for the last 4 decades. So, like,
Yeah.
like, what a better manifestation of the brand than by putting something out that's been true since I don't know, probably the late 1970s. Like it's just the extension of that, and I think it works because it's natural and it's authentic. It wasn't cooked up as an opportunity to say, how do we get more eyeballs on it? So I think that's where, for me, like that's the big takeaway from that is what is the core, ethos of Onbe? What do we stand for, right? Like, how do I bring value beyond currency, right? Is our tagline, and how does that manifest itself in the market, in our creative, and at our other touch points?
Yeah, totally. Thank you so much for joining me today, Kevin. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Lauren, thanks so much for having me, and I think we still need to do part two, so we'll talk to you again soon.
I love it. Maybe we'll do it in person. All right, thanks, Kev. And thank you to all of you. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our other content.